Hi, my friends. We are going to talk about the phases of the moon today. What we will need today is your moon packet. In your moon packet, you have this piece of paper. It might actually be the front and the back, phases of the moon. So if you can find this for today, phases of the moon, and down here it says your name, phases of the moon, and then we are going to be replicating or duplicating. We are going to be making phases of the moon with Oreos. So Oreo cookies. Hopefully you have some, and if you don't have some, then you can always just put this off till next time, or you can just draw. But I got these cookies. Sometimes you can get your groceries delivered, and so I just got these delivered. So they don't have to be the brand Oreo, but this kind of cookie. So we are going to use those cookies today and this piece of paper. And we are going to do our best to make the phases of the moon. We're going to show them. So I'll let you go ahead and pause right now, and you can go get those items if you need them, if you don't have them with you already, and then you can come back and we'll talk about it. Okay, the phases of the moon. Now remember, phases are the time of how much we see of the moon at a time. So we see all of the moon, or we see none of the moon, or we see a little bit part of it. And so those are each day when we see a little bit more, a little bit less of the moon, those are called the phases of the moon. Now the moon, remember, doesn't have its own light. The sun has its light, and the sun gives off light, and that bounces off the moon and then reflects and gives us on Earth some light at nighttime. So the moon doesn't have its own light, but the moon rotates around Earth. And it rotates around Earth in, where's my pen? About 29 and a half days, which is kind of funny. A funny number to know. 29 and a half days is how long it takes for the moon to go around the Earth. All right, now, two key words I'm going to give you. We have waxing, which is going to mean getting bigger, and waning, which means getting smaller. You might remember those from a previous video. So waxing means we are going to be seeing more and more of the moon, and waning means when we are seeing less and less of the moon. So on this piece of paper here, we already have circles cut out and we have them labeled. If you can see right here, this is where we start, where it says new moon. So the new moon is when we don't see any of the moon. That's when the whole moon is blocked out and we really can't see any of the moon. So even though it's called a new moon, makes me think we could see a lot of it. It's brand new, and for that month, and right before we can see any of it, it's all dark. And so in that case, I want you to have taken an Oreo, and you can split it in half, and then the half that doesn't have any of the frosting on it is like a new moon, and you can put that right there. So if you want, I can show you how I did that. Let me get a different Oreo. So make sure you are in the kitchen doing this, because you might be making some crumbs. So see how mine came apart. Now if yours comes apart and you have frosting on both of them, you can get a knife, or just a butter knife, not a sharp knife, and you can scrape off any of the frosting. So in this case, I already made one for us there, but here is our new moon. So I put that in where it says new moon, and now it's these Oreos are a little bit bigger than the circles that we have here, but if you can see, it says new moon. Okay, now after that, next is our waxing crescent. Now waxing, do you remember what waxing means? It means starting to get bigger, or we can see more of the moon. So our waxing crescent is going to be like this. If you can pause this now, and you can take an Oreo and you can break it apart, and if you can, just get a little butter knife, not a sharp knife, and you can scrape it out, scrape that off. If your mom or dad says it's okay, you can eat it, but don't have more than one or two. It'll give you a tummy ache. I'll let you figure that out with your family. So here is what the waxing crescent of the Oreo can look like. Okay, waxing means we can start to see a little bit more. We started here on this day of the month, we couldn't see any, and then a few days later, we can see a crescent. Sometimes we say it's just a sliver, but we call that a crescent, and in here it's a waxing crescent because it's getting larger, or it's not that it's getting larger, it's that we can see more of it. And then after that is the first quarter, what it is called the first quarter of the phase, which is where we can see this half of the moon. So you can get your Oreo and you can make that. This is about how we can see the first quarter is when we see the half of the moon. Now after that, we have waxing gibbous. So remember, waxing means it's getting larger, meaning we can see more and more of it. So we started off, we can see this much of the moon. Now we can see half of the moon, even though it says first quarter. Now it's getting more, and so it's called waxing gibbous, which is when we see even more of the moon. The moon is still here, we just can't see that part of it. So this is what the waxing gibbous would look like, approximately. Now all of ours are going to be a little bit different. So you can always pause this and then go on and get your next one. Now full moon is our next one. We all know what a full moon is, I think, right? It's when we can see the whole moon. Let's see, my full moon, there we go. A full moon, when we can see the whole thing. Now, we are about halfway through the moon cycle, and it's starting to wane, which is waning gibbous, which means we're starting to see less of it. Less of the moon. It was full, and now we are seeing it's starting to go down to less, so our waning gibbous would now look like this. You can put that there. And then we have last or third quarter, and that is, oops, I don't think I made one for this. Let me just do it real fast, and that's just the opposite of our first quarter, where it's the half, but this time it's the other half. See up here on the first quarter, we could see this half, and now it's going to where we can see this half. And our last phase of the moon is our waning crescent. Waning, it means it's getting smaller, smaller, and there is our waning crescent. And there are the phases of the moon. Maybe let me put that back a little bit. There we go. The phases of the moon. Oh, you know what I forgot? Was my name. I should have put my name first. This is Kingsbury. And if you want, you could write the date right here. And if you have markers or something, you can color this in yellow if you'd like. And you can take a picture of this if you want. Or you can show your family. And then hopefully you can have an Oreo party or a moon party and go ahead and enjoy your phases of the moons.